Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Larsen Live. It is the 26th of Saturday, 2025. How's everybody doing? Doing good? Okay. So, we opened up with Voodoo Child, slight return by Jimi Hendrix, or Voodoo Chili, as the idiots at WCW would pronounce it, which of course ties into the title story. A series of celebrity deaths occurred. First, Ozzy Osborne died, and then Hulk Hogan was like, "That doesn't work for me, brother." And then he, of course, had to hog the spotlight one last time by dying too. And you see, the whole Jimi Hendrix thing does kind of tie into it, because incoming music theory nerddom, Jimi Hendrix is one of the proto-metal progenitors, one of the guitarists who's considered a proto-progenitor of heavy metal, along with guys like and bands, sorry, like Blue Oyster Cult, Blue Cheer, Steppenwolf, Deep Purple, etc. And yes, to my Anglo listeners who are not here, there's only one person watching as of right now. The first band to actually refer to themselves as heavy metal was Black Sabbath. Hence, tie it into Ozzy. Then, of course, in the late 1990s, when Hogan had his famous heel turn down south, what was his entrance theme? Voodoo Child. See, it all ties together, you see? I'm very clever, says nobody. But yes, very famous celebrity deaths. Also Malcolm Jamal Warner. That's sorry, fans of the Cosby Show. That is a distant third. Yeah. Both men are interesting. Both men are, not exactly squeaky clean in terms of reputation, but undoubtedly they are very, very important men. Simpsons Wrestling Memes puts it best. He lied about everything. He was racist. He buried anyone he deemed a threat. He abused creative control, and he ruined the chance of wrestlers having a union. Still, there goes the best damn pro wrestler there ever was. Well said. Okay, we see some Shinsuke Evans says we also lost Chuck Mangione. Right, that's 4 untimely celebrity deaths. Yes, how could I forget Chuck Mangione, a man I didn't even know was an actual person. I thought he was just a character they made up for King of the Hill, but apparently he's a real man. He's a furious flugelhorn player. See, I didn't even notice, Hogan's burying people even beyond the grave. Well, I stand up next to the talents, and I chop them down with the edge of my hand. Yes, and the memes go on. You'd be surprised at how well Simpsons memes tie in with wrestling memes. Oh, you think this is funny, Nelson? Right now, James Hetfield is at home looking for a new bass player for Metallica. Yes, Netflix has also optioned a Hulk Hogan docu-series, which I'm really hoping is something along the lines of I, Tonya, where it's just Hulk Hogan's wild fibs and folk tales, compare and contrast to, the actual story. With, like, flashbacks and reenactments and things. I would watch the hell out of that. I would also watch that ridiculous Pandemonium Incorporated biopic of Vince McMahon that was written by the guy who wrote the Underdog live-action movie. So, there's a lot of tomfoolery involved in wrestling, but if you could be honest about the shenanigans that went on, I think it would be very entertaining indeed. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you straight up here, this stream will only be at most 1 hour, because I have to go at 1. But we can still have fun, can't we? Yes, I don't know what to say about the sudden and surprisingly heartfelt outputs of grief for Mr. Hogan. I know that's not his actual name, with regards to him dying. Considering that the last public appearance he made, he was getting booed out of the building in Los Angeles promoting his shitty beer company. But, you can't speak ill of the dead, I suppose. Okay. Ponythroat says, I missed the start of the stream because no YouTube notification. I assume the song was Hulkster in Heaven. I considered it, Ponythroat. So what happened was, I was going to, when I first saw that Ozzy Osborne died, I was going to open up with, Children of the Grave. But then Hulk Hogan, of course, said that doesn't work for me, brother, and he had to go die. So then I was going to open up with Hulkster in Heaven. But then I also wanted to honor Ozzy, too. So I kind of split the difference and opened up with Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix, which was, of course, Hogan's heel theme. And Jimi Hendrix, as well as several other musicians, was a major inspiration for the early heavy metal guys. It seemed to me that was the most neutral ground I could do without upsetting one or the other. And then, of course, Chuck Mangione died too, so, it's all... Yes, it's all just a cavalcade of celebrity deaths. Let's see what's... I'm going to put up a couple of the Maymays. But first, something is trending on Twitter. Apparently, elbow is trending. I don't know what that is, but... whatever. Yeah, I'm just going to put up the Apu Hogan meme, which I think sums things up best. Okay. Biff Stankovich says, the best wrestler word, Antonino Rocca. Yes, obviously long dead. He's a good man, Antonino Rocca. Okay. Let's see, let's open up the pictures here. Let's jiff it up. Yeah, I think Apu's saying it best there. Ponythroat says, fun fact, I was born within walking distance of Ozzy Osbourne's birthplace. I want to say Sheffield. Is that where he's from? Somewhere in Old Blighty. Yes, Ozzy was also involved in pro wrestling. On and off. There's pictures of him with DX, pictures of him with the British Bulldogs. And Lou Albano. Presumably, Ozzy was able to get away from that encounter with the Bulldogs and not be, violently abused by Tommy Billington, the terrible, terrible human being that he was. So, thank God for that. I'm honestly pretty... I was honestly kind of expecting that Ozzy would outlive the heat death of the universe, to be quite honest. Like, I thought that, it's like, speaking of The Simpsons, it's like Homer Simpson said, world, I guess this is it. I always thought you would die before me. It's kind of what I thought about Ozzy, but time came for us all, apparently. And yet, somehow, Keith Richards is still alive, defying all odds. Ponythroat says, towards the end of his life, Hogan did Tarnishing Your Own Legacy speedrun harder than Chris Benoit. Well, I mean, you gotta try really hard to tarnish your legacy to the extent that Chris Benoit did. And please, for the love of God, don't try. But yeah, Hogan, towards the end of his life, he was not great. I genuinely don't understand why Hogan felt the need to lie about so much when his genuine, actual life story would be so fascinating. I think, what I think it is when you're a wrestler and you've lived 30, 40 years of your life in kayfabe, sort of keeping up that artifice of wrestling, I guess there's a certain point where you just stop telling the truth. Like, you can't stop lying. Because some of the, if you listen to Jim Cornette's podcast, he really goes off on, like, some of the crazy claims Hogan made. It's like, yeah, in the 80s, they would think I was going to be like the next John Wayne in cowboy movies. No, you weren't, Hogan. No, you were not. This link which says Bruno Sammartino. Yes. Ponythroat says Lou Albano. He really meant Mario. Yes, Lou Albano always and forever will be the superior Mario voice. I don't care who, fight me about it. When you take drugs, first you go to hell, then you die. Anyway, moving on from wrestling, we have actual news to talk about. Let's see, we got some international news. One second, I just got a text. It's nothing. It's the bureaucrats again. But yes, international news. What is going on? Okay, so 1 second. I'm just going to mute the microphone. Sorry about that. I just got a text. It was a scam trying to claim it's from the Department of Motor Vehicles trying to bilk money out of me. I'm too clever for you, sir. Anyway, in Southeast Asia, some things might be going down. Okay, there's been exchanges of gunfire on the Thailand-Cambodia border. There's a disputed area, and there's been shooting. So says the People's Art of War, which I'm going to presume is some Chinese communist propaganda thing. But, he is correct. He says these border wars and clashes are increasing everywhere. Indeed, they are. There's some fighting going on somewhere in South America as well. Now, I myself said it on Twitter that as American power declines, you're going to see a lot more of this. Why? Because international law is not really a thing. To a large extent, a very large extent, international law is basically the United States bullying everybody into more or less behaving themselves. And as American power declines, you're going to see a lot more of this. And a lot less of people kind of keeping quiet and behaving themselves. Robert Diaz says he also got some tollway scammer texts. Yes. Now, people, I've always said, people can hate the United States all they want. There's certainly things that we do that I don't like, but, when the American Empire dies, there's going to be, people will beg for it to come back. You mark my words. So says at Robot Beat. What did you think rising American isolationism and the end of Pax Americana meant? Vibes, papers, essays? Yeah. I mean, a lot of these little ethnic conflicts and border conflicts have just been kind of simmering, tamped down by American money and threats of getting smacked around. For example, the United States literally gives the Egyptian government millions of dollars to essentially not murder the Coptics. I guess we're going to see that popping off at some point. Let's check out some comments here. Bisankovich says, continuing his chain of just naming old-timey wrestlers, Lou Albano, Tony Altamori, Arnold Skolin, the Golden Boy. Yes, Norway's favorite son. Okay. Robert Diaz says, in most places, excluding Europe and North America, might makes right as the de facto rule of law. Yeah, like I said, there is no international law, really. International law is basically the United States either bribing or bullying people to, quiet down. Just expect to see more of this. Not to be outdone by Southeast Asian shenanigans, there's also some silliness going on amongst the German police. The Die Polizei. Now, in Europe, for some inexplicable reason, there's been a lot of knife and machete-related crime and violence. For inexplicable reasons that nobody can begin to understand. Wink, wink. So the German police are now wearing, and I swear to God, they are wearing chainmail. I guess I'll just stop dancing around the issue. German counter-jihad knife armor. Let me just pull this up. The chainmail. I don't speak German. Okay. Yeah, so here's Das Wunderbar Polizei wearing chainmail. Now, if this does lead to an increase of counter-terrorist actions involving like gross messers and other like sorcery, that I can approve of. He's got a big stick. Maybe we're inching towards that. But I guess every so often people just reinvent medieval armor. There was a reinvention of armor in World War I as well. I mean, you could have just, like, not, you could have, like, vetted people and not brought in, violent derelicts who stab people to death, but, whatever. And before anybody says, yes, I know America has its own problems, like, but as far as I'm aware, you don't see American police officers having to wear literal chainmail suits just to go about their day. Yes, please, for the love of all that's holy, bring back the gross messer and, like, use that to counter knife violence. Okay. Ponythroat says the only way to fight a 7th century man is to become a 7th century person. Yeah, no, I think you might be not too far off about that. Robert Diaz says chainmail counters slashing weapons effectively. It fails against stilettos and ice picks. Yes, that is an issue. Yeah, chainmail works great against, swings, but not stabs. I guess, he is wearing a bulletproof vest, which, as far as I'm aware, also does not do much against stabbing. Yeah, the knives just go right through that Kevlar, as far as I'm aware. I hope it works, Germany. Best of luck. If this stops the shenanigans where, like, the police just kind of stand around watching people get stabbed and then arrest the guy getting stabbed, which did happen in Germany, that'll be nice. Ponytoad says, various types of wooden sticks are surprisingly common in police use and riot control. We don't see them in media often. I feel like people see nightsticks fairly often. Maybe not like full-on, quarter staves. But hey, if it works, it works. Alright, let's see what else we got going on. Let's see, I'm sure there's some nonsense going on in this country as well, because there usually is. Let's see. I have something in my notes labeled Blade. Wait, no, that's some pop culture thing. Let's, Alright, yeah, we mostly have a bunch of pop culture silliness, but there is one more international incident. Canada is dealing with a surge in measles cases, from very small amounts in 2024 skyrocketing up to more than 3,500 in the Great White North, far surpassing the raw numbers in the USA despite having a much smaller population. Why is this happening? I don't know why. Could it possibly be because of large-scale immigration from places that don't have much in the way of vaccinations, Canada? Don't judge me. That's what Canadians themselves will complain about in, hushed tones because they don't want to offend people, but get them talking, they'll tell you. People are saying, I'm sure Mark Carney will blame, American refugees escaping Trump somehow. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I know I have some Canadian listeners here. What are they saying? Okay, let's see. Robert Diaz says the crime statistics for stabbings and beatings is bonkers in countries where guns are banned. They traded gun crime for bats, screwdrivers, knives, and pipe crime. Yeah, in a place where people are violent, there's going to be, violence committed. If not with guns, then with, melee weapons. Shinseki Evan asks, have you been following the T-App leak? Yes, I have, actually. So I guess we could talk a little bit about that. Not much else to say about this measles thing. Yeah, so basically, the T app is a new app in which it's basically like a. I don't want to say it's like the social credit thing in China, but it kind of is. Essentially, is an app where ladies can talk to each other about men who have red flags, men who are not good romantically, or they have like issues in dating them, and they kind of spread the word. This has caused a bit of controversy, and there's also been a massive leak of the app. Okay. So the T app has been hacked. You can go download 59.3 gigabytes of user selfies. Yeah, 4chan, some, member of the internet hate machine hacked this, saying that it is an app designed to dox men and ruin their lives. I mean, I don't know if that was the intention. I mean, I'm sure it would end up that way. Like, I question whether or not this is going to be. Like, let's assume there wasn't a leak. I don't know if this would act the way it was supposed to be. Like, I know it's supposed to have women warning each other about shitty, abusive men, but I feel like it would probably devolve into just women dumping on like loser men, the dud, so to speak, and they would of course make fun of each other for getting the dud. I mean, was it an invasion of privacy? Yes. Is this hack going to hurt the women involved? Yes, also. So, men are posting pictures of women from the T app, and they're posting pictures of women making fun of them. I can't help but feel like this is what was going to happen. Yeah, this is not good. Okay. Pornthroat says the large increase in anti-vaxxers is not helping, referring to the Canadian thing. One of my parents believes viruses don't exist. It's the biological equivalent of being a flat earther. Yeah, basically. I mean, this app was an invasion of privacy, and I don't like it. I don't like the hack either. I guess it would be too much to ask for just basic civility and men not being pieces of shit, and also women not being crap either. But I guess that would be too much to ask for. But yeah, this hack is just beyond, making fun of the women's faces. It's got like driver's licenses, government IDs, etc., etc. Yeah, this is not good. Shinseki Evan says, my friend got his life ruined by online gossip. He pumped and dumped too many women and they ganged up on him. Yeah, well, I mean, the key is to have lots of sex, but also be a gentleman about it, like Casanova did. But, I mean, yeah, in an ideal world, this would be a good thing. To have women be able to warn each other of bad men, but I feel like something bad was going to happen at some point just because people suck. Okay, we'll leave that behind. We're going to go on to the silly side of things. Let's talk about food news. So, there's apparently a company called Liquid Death, and they have released, are you sitting down, a Fruity Pebbles cereal milk-flavored sparkling water. That's a collection of bizarre words I never thought I would hear. Liquid Death Fruity Pebbles cereal milk-flavored sparkling water. In other words, Liquid Death is some kind of canned beverage. I don't know if it's alcoholic or not. They're making a beverage, a seltzer, possibly alcoholic, that tastes like Fruity Pebbles milk. Milk that has had Fruity Pebbles cereal soaking in it. This is a culinary abomination. I hope it stops. This is the time to use that panel from the comic book. Barney, we participate in a genocide. Yeah, this is the only moment that's appropriate right now. I mean, we're basically one step away from just giving the kids bottles of gin like in the Victorian days. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of surprised that like Post or General Mills or whoever owns Fruity Pebbles was like okay with this. Yes, that does make me want to slam my head through the nearest piece of drywall. Robert Diaz says, the revenge being taken these days is beyond petty. Just letting stuff go has lost its effectiveness. Yeah, I mean, I talked about this a few months ago. There was a Reddit post where some guy wrote, like, will you be my girlfriend in chocolate syrup? And women just dumped on him for hours, and then they ghosted him. So I feel like that's going to be... Unfortunately, if this leak didn't happen, that's what T would have been. It would have been like 10% women warning each other about legitimately having red flags, and 90% women complaining about the ick. Robert Diaz says, referring to the liquid death thing, it's a sparkling drink. It's not alcoholic. It's okay. I mean, is it okay? It's non-alcoholic, but it's still disgusting bilge water. Ponythroat says, I think these days kids only know the Flintstones from Fruity Pebbles. I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, when was the last time they had a show on TV? And before anybody says it, yes, I'm aware John Cristofalusi did some Flintstones thing that probably sucked, like everything he's done since the 90s. Yeah, those, by the way, speaking of John Cristofalusi rubbing his grody little balls on Hanna-Barbera, yeah, if you want to see absolute crap, go look at those 3 Yogi Bear shorts he did. They are garbage. Much like he himself is made of garbage. Okay. Finally, speaking of Germany, we're going to go back to a place that's very close to Germany, Belgium. Belgian culture ate shit this past weekend. For the Smurfs movie, the reboot, I don't know what Smurfing reboot we're on. It earned only 11 million domestic box office dollars on the opening weekend. The budget was 58 million. It's the lowest ever for the franchise. Speaking of characters that the children probably don't know of nowadays, or they only know of extremely vaguely. Yes, a Twitter post I did not mention on the stream, but I mentioned to my wife. It was like some guy is walking with his kids. They see the poster. Kid asks father, what is a Smurf? The guy says, well, there are these little blue guys who live in the forest, and then just kind of stops and realizes he knows nothing about the franchise other than little blue people who live in a forest. Well, they're tiny little Belgian communists, sir. I don't know who was asking for this. Like, did they not... I mean, I know they had, like, the live-action / CG animated Smurfs movie. Then they had some reboot one. And I guess this is, like, the reboot of the reboot. I don't know what they were expecting. Like, who was this supposed to appeal to? Gee, I guess making Rihanna as Smurfette did not bring in the audience. Just give it up, Belgium. It ain't happening anymore. Ponythroat says, oh my god, referring to T, oh my god, Becky, he plays Nintendo 64 games using the alt control scheme. Really gives me the ick. Many, many, many years ago, I was with a lady in her crappy apartment. She had a Nintendo 64. I really debated, as I was leaving, I debated asking her if she could pull out the N64 and we could play some Killer Instinct Gold, but that didn't happen. Ponythroat, referring to the Smurfs, says they had an evil wizard with a famous Minecraft seed named after him. I didn't know Minecraft had things named Gargamel. Shinseki Evans says maybe this next reboot won't Smurf the big one. I mean, you mean the reboot after this present reboot? Because I'm sure they'll reboot it at some point. Yeah, Belgium, you gotta make some new cartoons or something. Like it's done. The last thing I'll say about the Smurfs is, what's pretty funny is if you watch that Cartoon All Stars like drug PSA thing, which was introduced by the presidents of various countries. Yeah, watch that. Like it's really funny listening to George Herbert Walker Bush trying to introduce this cartoon, and he's trying to explain what a Smurf is, and he clearly has no idea what the hell he's talking about. I don't know. I just feel like when trying to explain what a Smurf is, Bush Sr. probably had a flashback to almost being cannibalized by the Japanese in World War II. Robert Diaz says the Smurfs has more things wrong with it than a book of Polish inventions. One woman in a village of men. Yes. I mean, I just always assumed they just ran trains on Smurfette once a month. Or, I don't know, maybe they import some of those, like, evil black Smurfs that, rampage every once in a while. And yes, that is a thing that, Pertwee or whoever the hell makes Smurfs, Peyo, or I think it's Peyo, that Belgian bande dessinée man. Anyway, speaking of desperately trying to rehash pop culture media that people liked many years ago, Marvel continues to blow it when trying to reboot the Blade franchise. Kevin Feige says they've had 4 scripts that they've rejected, and they finally decided to have a take on it set in the modern day. We didn't just want to have him put on a leather coat and kill vampires. They didn't want Blade to just put on a leather jacket and kill vampires. I'm sorry, what exactly do you think this movie's going to be? Like, we didn't want Blade to have that very basic fundamental concept of what the character is, so we're just going to reject that. Hey guys, we're gonna reboot Romeo and Juliet, but we're not gonna have them be teenagers in love or anything. Boy, these Hollywood people, that is a job I wish I could luck into, because it seems like these are the most incompetent, stupid people on earth, and yet they make millions of dollars just hand over fist. How do I get this job, please? Shinseki Evan clarifies that Peyo is the man who makes Smurfs. Yeah, I was just kind of jockeying like a bunch of bande dessinée writers. I was like, is it Hergé? No, Hergé does Tintin. Is it the guy who does Asterix and Obelix? No, it's not. Now I have to go look up who does Asterix and Obelix. Just give me 1 second there. Uderzo and Goscinny, yes. Ponythroat says, will they make a movie about Blade and his mission to evade taxes? I mean, presumably, yes. Shinseki Evans says, remember the Snorks? Maybe they'll make a comeback. Yeah, why don't we have comebacks of all the little creatures in villages cartoons from the 80s, like the Snorks and the Smurfs and the Pac-Man cartoon. Yeah, we need more of that. And finally, speaking of rebooting shit from the 90s nobody asked for, apparently they're rebooting Air Bud. I don't know what would cause it, says Mr. Chow. I think Airbud should be very disgraced and canceled in the beginning of the movie. Do not anthropomorphize him at all. Be creative with this. I agree. You could have him like furiously hump a bunch of dogs in the audience, and like he gets Me Too'd essentially. I mean, if you're gonna reboot this, at least do something slightly interesting with it. Mr. Chow makes another post. I need the image to kind of make this joke work. Mr. Chow says, I'm laughing as I just imagine Airbud making this face as everybody walks down the street pointing at him and yelling at him. I mean, hey, if it leads to like Airbud being a raging alcoholic and having like a training montage where he gets back in shape, I could do with that. Shinseki Evan clarifying yet another like little creatures in a village cartoon. The Paw Paw Bears, the other Native American coded bears besides Ewoks. Were the Ewoks really Native American coded? If anything, I think, weren't they like the Viet Cong, if anything? One second, I'm getting some texts. Robert Diaz says, Airbud was bad and it's still bad. I mean, I think the first one's serviceable for what it is. I mean, it's a movie about a boy and a dog. Don't expect like a masterpiece from it. But yeah, like the rest of it is just crap. And at least the first Airbud actually explained why Airbud can do what he does. He was a circus dog who was abused by his owner. So this it kind of made sense. Pointflip said they're also making a new hand-drawn animated movie on Netflix. The trailer looks like Sausage Party for Zoophiles. I don't know what movie you're referring to, sir. Okay, I'll get this Budrick off my stream. So says Hispanic Sean King. They have an opportunity to make a statement about trans athletes being allowed to play sports. They can draw parallels to Bud's own struggle to be allowed to play basketball. Actually, that's a terrible idea. Never mind. So apparently there's 25 Airbud movies, 5 as an adult and 20 pup movies. Please, for the love of God, make it stop. I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it going to be the same dog from the original movie? Because that dog is long dead. I mean, is it going to be like an elderly Airbud who's just dragging his anus on the floor 24/7? I don't know, and I'm putting way too much thought into this. I'm putting much more thought into this than the people making this movie undoubtedly will. Every so often I have this idea of like, why don't they make like a dog movie about like a dog who becomes a boxer? Then I realize that dog fighting is actually a terrible thing, and that would really be controversial. And then when I think about dog fighting, it makes me think, why has nobody ever made like a book accurate film of like White Fang, like a hard R White Fang? Because, you know, people always assume, oh, it's a dog, it's some like kiddie movie. No, sir, the original White Fang is literally like the John Milius Conan the Barbarian movie with a dog. Like, it's never gonna happen, but I would love to see like a hard R Call of the Wild or a hard R rated White Fang. And hopefully a Call of the Wild that doesn't have Harrison Ford petting a man in a motion capture suit. So yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. Ponythroat says there are 5 Air Bud movies and 20 Buddy movies, 20 set in the puppy mill. Robert Diaz says Air Bud is like herpes. He goes into remission and comes up every few years. Yeah, that's about what I expected. Ponythroat said the dog from Air Bud died in 1998. 1 year after the movie came out. Was it old age? Did he get run over by a car? Like, I don't know what happened. So says Brand Paul. They should make Air Bud a chocolate Labrador. We can have an outrage cycle so stupid that the discourse will kill people about race swapping Air Bud. I would laugh my ass off if that happened. Okay, Ponythroat says Air Bud died of cancer. He was 10. That's very unfortunate. So yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. Say your last pieces now, should you desire. Ponythroat asks, Air Bud Space Jam crossover when? Boy, we're really just bringing back everything from the 90s, aren't we? I still say that, like, the funniest thing about Space Jam is the fact that, like, at the premiere, Chuck Jones was just losing his shit, saying, like, you know, why is Bugs Bunny not just kicking their asses in, like, 5 minutes, and they had to, like, throw him, like, they literally had to get security to throw the old man out. I mean, it's very sad that they would treat him that way, but I gotta say, it's kind of funny. Like, Chuck, this movie's made to sell merchandise. Just relax, okay? Robert Diaz says Blade was supposed to get captured and rescued by an elite female team in one of the spec scripts. The actor said hell no to that script. Well, it's very good for him. Ponythroat says Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball on SNES starring Air Bud. I mean, it's hardly going to be the worst basketball game ever made. I'm still waiting for a reboot of Pigskin 621 AD, the only football game where you can literally murder people on the field. Well, actually, that's not true. No, there's Mutant League. You can kill people there. All right, so take a minute, say your last pieces, and I got to head out of here. Ponythroat says Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball is awful. I mean, is it worse than the White Men Can't Jump video game? Robert Diaz says Magic Johnson's Basketball for the NES is a 1-star game. Remember when Nintendo would make like just regular sports games like basketball or wrestling or, you know, baseball, hockey? Yeah, why don't we go back to that? In general, when it comes to sports games, if you can't like violently fustigate your enemies, I don't want to play them. If I want to play sports by the rules, I would just play sports outside. Yeah, give me like that, like, you know, Kunio Kun, those ball games, or like, you know, NBA Jam, you know, Pigskin 621 AD. Yeah, those are the kind of sports games I like. You know, NFL Blitz. Yeah, it's a shame that we live in a world where, you know, Madden went on for decades, but NFL Blitz, you know, didn't. And yeah, I know that Blitz the League is a thing. It's not the same thing. Alright, doesn't seem like anybody else has anything else to say. So for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.